This is my Lamy AL-Star. AL-Star? AL-Star. I bought this pen with a fine nib. That fine nib felt like I was writing with a couple of straight pins with ink dipped on the tips. It was the most unpleasant nib I've used, which is perhaps only a slight exaggeration. So I bought a second fine nib, and it was no different. So I returned that, and I bought this medium nib, which was a slight improvement. And I tried to convince myself that this was okay and good and whatever. But the reality is I did not like using this pen. And I struggled to understand how people could recommend it to others, especially those who are new to the hobby. You go onto pen forums, whether it's Reddit or Pen Network or wherever, and you see people recommending Lamy Safari. And the AL-Star is effectively just a metal Safari. And yes, I know there are differences, blah, blah, blah. But it's the higher end offering of the two. They have extremely similar design cues. I opted for the metal one on the AL-Star because of the tactile difference between it and the plastic of the Safari. The nib makes the pen. You can take a garbage nib and put it on a $1,000 pen and you're going to have a bad time. You can take a good nib and stick it on a raw block of wood and have an amazing experience. The nib is the interface between your hand and the page. It sets the experience. Everything else is just staging. Whether it's your converter or piston filled mechanism or cartridge or whatever, which effectively serves as your reservoir for your ink or your feed, which effectively transfers the ink from the reservoir to the nib so that it can be applied to the page. Fortunately, disassembling these pens is not rocket science. It really isn't. And the benefit of that is that I can show you what I've done. Because I went on to Etsy and I spent $8.50 on Stub nibs, which came with a distinct feed, to replace these terrible Lamy nibs and hopefully salvage my relationship with this pen. I should also say that I did try a 1.5 stub from Lamy on this pen, and it was unusable. And that got returned. And when given the option to use any of the pens that I own, I look at this Lamy pen about in the same light as I look at my Junlai 75 or my, what is this, Junlai 58. a pen that I bought that I will never use again. It's going to eBay. So, can I salvage my relationship with my Lamy pen by doing away with Lamy nibs? Let's start with a writing sample with this medium nib. And today I will be using a relatively inexpensive ink that I happen to really enjoy. Hongdian Blackish green. It's not jazzy, it's kind of plain, it's kind of boring. I enjoy using it in business note-taking. Why? Because it looks basically black on the page. And for context, I am using garbage paper. I bought this because it was on sale. $1 a notebook. And I go through a lot of these. We'll call this the Lamy AL-Star, the AL-Star. So this medium nib is better than the fine nib in that writing with it is about akin to writing with a lead pencil. And I don't mean like a nice mechanical pencil. I mean like a wood graphite pencil that you grabbed, stuck in a pencil sharpener like this, sharpened to a point, and then started taking your 3rd grade math notes with. It is not the worst. It's not quite as bad as this nightmare, but I think we can do better. So, let's do some surgery. One of the questions I've been asked is, well, what did Lamy support do when you reached out to them? Did you reach out to them? Yes, of course I reached out to Lamy support. This was a $40 pen. Certainly not the most expensive thing, but a $40 pen should write better than my $9 Junlai X159, which this does not do. Lamy support was of no help whatsoever. And so I'm pushed to this end. I would have just returned the pen. By the time I got around to actually using it, I was already beyond the warranty period, the return period, whatever that's called. And so rather than just stick this in a drawer or sell it on eBay, I'm here making a big mess, but having a good time doing it. So this is the feed that came with my nibs. Nibs came specifically from Chinese pen store on Etsy. This is owned by Bobby Pen. No one watches these videos, but I'll say it anyway. No, it's not sponsored. I have no relationship with them beyond having spent money there. And we're going to compare these up close so you can see. Now, according to Bobby Pen, the feed that comes with these nibs just works better. At least with these nibs. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to do what they recommend. And we're going to see how this writes. Let's get this out of the way. Look at that, I even got it Lamy up. All right, let's see what we got here. This is a 1.5 stub. This makes it the widest stub I own. And you can see ink is still getting to the nib here. Let me scribble a little. Really should have given this a minute before. Scribble, scribble. It's interesting. This is the first time I'm actually successfully using a 1.5 nib. And like my architect nib, there's a sweet spot. And that's interesting. I kind of like that. I keep rolling it like I do with my 1.1. I'll have to unlearn that. You see what I'm doing with the nib tip? See how my hand is moving different? I'm sure there's calligraphy people out there that would definitely like this. Yeah, there's definitely a little bit of a learning curve there that I have to work on. But I see myself having a lot of fun with this nib once I get used to using it. And all of a sudden, this pen isn't quite the burden it felt like. It's an interesting example of how the smallest part of a pen can just ruin your experience with it. This is very different from a 1.1. That little bit of difference. It sounds like so little when you just casually throw it around. 1.5 versus a 1.1. Here's a 1.1. Diamine Ancient Copper, Junlai 630 with a custom 1.1 stub from the same place. It's a bobby nib. And the 1.1, excuse me, 1.5. Quite a difference. quite a difference. Let's get a closer look at this nib. Took me a hot moment to get this new feed and new nib really inked and going. It's a different writing experience from what I'm used to, which is what I was looking for, because variety is the something something. And blah blah blah, look how thick that is. Thick. Anyway, that's really it. That's all I'm doing. That's my Lamy AL-Star, AL-Star, All-Star, whatever. I don't care. Call it whatever you want. With a third-party feed and nib, and finally, I am somewhat happy with it.